So today we're going to talk about support weapons and brass facts. Brass Facts is a tactical channel. He delves into survival issues, and he recently did a video where he's saying that support weapons are only necessary for less than 5% of SHTF. Now, he spends his whole video telling you why support weapons are not a good investment for SHTF and the downsides of them, but he never tells you the value of them and why they are indispensable. Now, my vision of SHTF and his vision of SHTF must be very different. Maybe that's because of my age and his age and my experiences and his experiences. But I think the reason he's wrong is he conflates special purpose weapons with support weapons, and he groups them all together. And basically he claims that a DMR rifle or a long-range sniping system is really what a support weapon is about. And he kind of touches on belt feeds and paranoia and things like that. But in reality, in SHTF, a lot of your targets are going to be in cover. And that includes vehicles, trucks, block walls, buildings, light fortifications. If you look at my old videos that are not indexed, to find them, you'll have to go on one of my libraries on my channel and just switch it so it shows the oldest videos. And it'll show you that we discussed in depth 12 years ago field fortifications, crib walls, ways to harden buildings, properties. Those are the kind of things you're going to have to deal with your support weapons, unless you want to try to physically climb over them to get to attackers while you're being fired on. So you can see that's really a tactical downside of not having a support weapon, is you would have to physically get to the target, is the fact that you would have to actually get inside the fortified area to engage the combatants. You couldn't do it from a distance. And one of the fallacies Brass Facts keeps stressing is a support weapon weighs around 16 pounds. That's actually not the case. I have support weapons that start at around 12 pounds and they go up to 40 pounds. Some of them exceed 40 pounds with the mounts and accessories. So you have support weapons that are used by individuals and you have support weapons that are used by a crew. These are going to be used against you in SHTF. And that's another reason that you need some kind of standoff capacity, because the enemy will have it. So killing trucks is critical. Killing vehicles that are moving towards you to car bomb you, deliver combatants to your doorstep, they have to be stopped. 5.56s just don't cut it for that. And when we talk about support weapons, what we're talking about here at the dodsonarmsco channel are machine guns, high-capacity semi-automatic weapons that are rifle caliber, not assault weapon caliber. We're talking about heavy rifles, 375 H&H, 9.3 by 74R, up to 458 Win Mag, which are ideal anti-material weapons for close range, 0 to 300 meters. So we'll do a few video clips to show you what support weapons do. Welcome to 9.3 by 74R versus block wall. One barrel set in 9.3 by 74R, and then another barrel set in 12 gauge over 222 Remington. I really like these. These are one of my favorite guns. They're very versatile. First we'll fire on the orange section, see what that does, whether the bullets actually pass through it or they disintegrate when they hit it. And then we'll fire against the gravel field portion and see, which I highly doubt the bullets will pass through it. what we'll have to probably do is break the wall down in order to hit the target behind it. And also included in that group are standard infantry rifles such as the Mosin Nagant, the M14. They give you capabilities well above what a 5.56 can do when you're talking about engaging trucks, buildings, light fortifications, homes, berms, block walls, crib walls. We also include in this group sniping systems, whether they're for extreme range, whether they're for normal engagement ranges or extreme range, because they give us precision and penetration. So some of these weapons can go up to 300 Win Mag, 300 H&H Mag, and 338 Lapua Mag. So they're not quite in the heavy rifle category, but they serve an anti-material function. Today we have a Mosin Nagant, model 9130, 28-inch barrel. This is a very common weapon. Distribution was worldwide. What we want to do is see what the concrete penetration potential is for this round. This gun is utilizing the 7.62 by 54R. We will be using Cellar and Ballot 180 grain full metal jacket ammunition. Let's get started with our first shot. As you can see, the first round, 180 grain, 7.62 by 54R, penetrated the first block clean, 1.7 inches, and it went about 3/8 of an inch into the second block and cracked it. We'll follow up with another shot. As you can see here, shot number 2. penetrated the first block and lodged right in front of the second block. Just a minor scratch in the second block. This is the first bullet. This was a 180 grain full metal jacket. This was the second bullet, another 180 grain full metal jacket, 7.62 by 54R. As you can see here, we managed to break down 3 blocks. That's 5.1 inches of penetration. We'll pull the blocks off and see if there's any damage to the 4th block. As you can see, there was no damage to the 4th block. Now that our testing is completed, what we found is on single shots we could reliably penetrate 1.7 inches of concrete. On the composite 5-shot test, what we found is we got 5.1 inches of concrete penetration. That makes this a very good weapon for breaking down concrete. We'll do some additional videos in the future with 20-shot composites, and we'll also try the 125 grain Lapua full metal jacket load and also the 147 grain full metal jacket loads for this weapon, so we can get an idea of the total capacity of this weapon for use against concrete. SCO 375 H&H Magnum versus concrete. What we wanted to do was test some of these medium and large bore rifles to see if it gives us any gain on concrete penetration and reduction of concrete targets. We're going to use these Hornady 375 H&H 300 grain DGS solids. We'll zoom in here so you can get a look. What you'll notice is it penetrated and broke the first block, and it stopped partway in the second block, so we got about 2 inches of concrete penetration. We'll pull the front block out so you can take a look at the second block. We'll zoom in and give you a look. With this shot, we penetrated the first slab of concrete, We penetrated most of the second slab and cracked the third. The next round is we'll fire 3 rounds and see what kind of gross penetration we get. With 3 rounds fired in succession, we managed to penetrate 3.4 inches of concrete. It did not break the block behind it though, and we did recover 1 bullet. As you can see here, this is the solid we recovered. Now that you've seen single shots in a 3-shot composite, what we would figure is this would actually be a pretty good weapon for breaking down concrete using the 300 grain solids. In the future, we'll fire some soft point ammunition too to see how that impacts the concrete, see if that's viable also, or whether you just need to stick to the 300 grain solids. Now with this gun, if you want to penetrate 4 or 5 inches of concrete, you're probably going to have to fire 10 to 15 rounds to do it, but it does give you the capacity to do that. One thing to keep in mind is because of the recoil of this gun, this is not something you want to shoot from prone position. In the future, we'll shoot this against the block wall and the hardened block wall to see what kind of performance we get on that. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode.